Okay, welcome. Today we are going to be working on a grove of trees, and this is dedicated to Amelia Matthews. She had been asking me if I would do one of these for a while now. Unfortunately, we can't do it together, Amelia, but hope you enjoy it. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do, this is going to be done in acrylics, and so I just use if I was doing a more professional painting, I would use different acrylics, but these, just the regular craft paint acrylics, will work just fine. If you're just doing, kind of a practice one or something like that. If you get to the point where you really want to get into acrylic, I would suggest some better quality paints, just because they'll mix well, they'll blend better, and they kind of stay wet longer. But for now, we're just going to use these craft paints. You can get them pretty cheap, usually $1 or under. And we are going to just start with, I've already squozen out some white, some light blue, and some different shades of blue, darker blue. And they can really be any colors that you want of blues, just to kind of look like a sky. And I'm just using an 8 by 10 canvas. And I'm going to start out with just kind of a flat brush. If you only have one brush, that's fine. But with acrylic, it's kind of fun because you can go over the colors so well with other colors, either light or dark. So you don't necessarily have to start with the lightest color or the darkest color. Usually acrylics are done more with, if you use, usually start more with the darker colors and go lighter, unlike the watercolors where you have to start with the light colors first. So I've just went ahead and started with some white. And the reason why I've done this is then when I come through with my blue, and I didn't even rinse my brush off, I just added some blue to it, you'll see that it blends in with the white. And that's why I started with the white color, is because I wanted it to kind of blend in and make this gradual, light coming in from the sky. And what we're going to do is we're drawing a scenery with some trees and a light coming, and we're going to be looking up at the trees like we're kneeling down. And I'm just going to go darker as we get down lower to the ground, and then have that up high as lighter. And I'm just going to keep going as I'm going down. And acrylics are really fun. They're very easy to use. They're a little bit more messier than like watercolor or things like that, and they're a little bit more expensive if you get the paints individually. They're a little bit more expensive than just buying the little container of watercolors, but they are still pretty inexpensive, especially if you just get the craft paints. And they're very easy to do, because if you make a mistake, you can fix it. You can always fix it. You can always just wait until it dries and you can go over it again. Okay, I just am going to add some antique white or cream to it too. We'll get to that in a second, but I was kind of waiting for some of this part to dry. And again, I'm just going to start going darker, gradually down. And just get a another darker color here down at the bottom, and kind of even a really darker color at the very bottom. This one almost has kind of a green tint to it, but it doesn't have to. It can just be, I'm just going to add a little bit more of that blue to it. We just want it to kind of be a gradual color change. And you've seen, I have not, with these, if you're using craft paints, you won't have to add much water. If they've been out on your plate for too long, they'll start drying out and you'll want to add some water, but usually you don't have to add some water. Now I'm gonna take some of that dark blue and mix it a little with the other blue, because I'm thinking it looks a little more green than I wanted it. I wanted it to be more of a darker blue. So I'm just gonna take some of that blue and add it onto it, and then we're gonna gradually go up. Now I am having a lot of paint on my paintbrush, so I'm just gonna take a paper towel, and first I'm just gonna kind of wipe it off on the plate here. But I'm just gonna kind of wipe it off, not even rinse it with water yet, because I'm okay with the colors mixing a little bit. And now I'm just gonna take and kind of go back up and make this gradual color change. And take more of that light blue and bring it on up. And you want it to be as smooth as you can make it, the change from color to color, just gradually making it up. And then again, I'm gonna rinse my brush a little bit. And then of course you want to dry it pretty good before you get some more paint on there. And then just bring it on up. And I'm doing it in a side by side. I don't want it up and down. I want it make horizontal lines in it. This will make it look more like sky. And then again, I'm going to take some white and come up here again with it. And then I'm going to add a little of that antique white, and I'm just going to put a little bit of it at the top. And then I'm going to even take a little bit of some light yellow and add just a little bit, because we want it to look like the sun is hitting down. So I'm just going to add a little bit of that yellow and make it kind of come down. Now I'm going to do a stroke this way to make it look like the sun is just right there and it's hitting right there. And so it's coming down. And spreading all of its rays right here. Now, and then dip my paintbrush into the white again. And have it hit these rays. Make this be the rays coming down. Okay, now once you get it, I think I want it just a little wider up here. Now, if you are starting to feel like it's getting a little muddy or not mixing like you want it to, take a break from it and let it dry, and then it will come back and you can make it look a little bit less muddy. So I'm gonna go ahead and push pause for a minute and let my paint dry. Okay, I've let my paint dry a little bit, and that's a good time while you're taking a break to go rinse out your water as well. Now I'm gonna just take that white again and bring some more of that white. I kind of felt like it was too much of a yellow at that point. So I'm just gonna kind of spread this out. And then bring this down. In fact, I want to kind of blend this all in. Again, we're just kind of, and this is what I said, it's very forgiving, so you can just add more color in and pretty much paint over whatever you don't like and add more in. I think I'm gonna need a little bit more light blue. And so we're just gonna keep bringing that down. And bring it back up. And gradually bring it down. Okay, now we're gonna go in, liking that better. And so now we're gonna go in again with this white and just bring the white light down like the sun is glowing. Right down. All right. Okay, now again, you're gonna want to wait a little bit if your paints are still pretty wet on your canvas. I'm gonna go ahead and just be working on pouring some other colors to my palette here, or my paper plate. We're gonna go ahead, you'll want a light brown. And you're gonna want maybe like kind of a darker brown. And this one looks like it's about dried up here. Maybe we won't use this one. We'll try a different color. Pink. Okay, we are back. And hopefully I've got some colors that are gonna work. So I just took a lighter brown, a darker brown, and kind of a peach color, and then a green, and a little bit of a light pink, and then just a little bit of a dark pink as well. And then that should be all the paints that we are using for today. Okay, so now that our canvas has dried again, we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna use a smaller brush, just the one that I was using for the watercolors as well. You can use for your acrylics. And we are just going to draw some of the trees. Now, don't worry if the line is not very even, because tree chunks are not very even either, and you can just go ahead and draw a line in it. These vertical lines of how many trees that you want. Now the closer up trees are going to be lighter than the ones far away. And these are just going to be lines. We're not even going to be worried about branches. We're just going to be looking at the trunks of the trees. And some can be thinner and some will be higher. Some will be close together, some will be a little bit farther apart. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and even if you want to make them a little bit on a slant, like they're pointing up, so that will give you a little bit more perspective, you can. Okay, and you can see that it's not very perfect. It's kind of got some places that aren't very much painted, and that is just fine because we just kind of wanted to get a general idea of where these trees are going to be. Then we're going to come back through and I'm going to take some cream and just kind of line the tree. And I want it to blend with that other color that's already on there, because there's going to be parts of the tree that the sun or this light is going to come and hit, and there's going to be parts where it's going to be not hitting it as much. And the tops of the trees are going to hit more with that light than the bottom. So you want to always start with that cream color at the top. And then bring it down. Because you're thinking, okay, this light source up here is going to be hitting at the top and not as much at the bottom. There might be some places that, oh, it kind of hit here and it kind of hit there. So you can add some to the bottom. And this one didn't seem like it had very much brown, so I'm going to add some brown. And I'm going to add just a tad of water to my brown because it's looking kind of dry. And then as you get down lower, these trees are going to get a little wider as they get lower to the ground. And just kind of keep adding in where you want. These trees to be. And I'm thinking if the light's coming in here, you're going to want the light will be hitting these tops and these sides more than it's going to be, and then on this side it's going to be the left side. So on the left side the light's going to hit the right, and on the right side it's going to hit the left a little bit more. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and just kind of leave that for a minute. We're not done with those trees trunks yet, but we're going to let them dry just a little bit so that they don't get all muddy looking. And we're going to go ahead and add now some of the foliage. Now it's springtime, and so we're just going to take, I'm going to take a little bit of this green, this light green, and I'm just going to start adding some dots. And it's covering right over on some of that brown spot. This way we don't even have to do branches because the trees are starting to come out, and you don't want them to look like a ball because trees usually don't come out looking like a ball. They're not perfectly, they have these little branches here and there that are sticking up and coming out. And all I'm doing is just dabbing here and dabbing there with my brush. And it doesn't matter how much, you just kind of do it to your preference. Now, kids, if kids are doing this and they don't want to do so many trees, they can just do one big tree. And if they want to do that, they can just make a big trunk and have it looking up. And that way, it's not so time consuming. And then they'll do the same thing though. They can just go ahead and add the leaves to it. And I'm gonna pour out a little bit more green. It's always better to pour out less than more, I think, because you can always pour out more, but then if you have too much poured out, then it just dries up and you can't reuse it. Okay, so I'm adding some of the leaves down here, and I'm gonna do some that are maybe more in the background a little bit, that are just kind of peeking through here and there. Down below, some of the branches, you're gonna see things from and we're gonna make this one be super tall up here. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and let that dry a little bit. And so this is a good time to rinse your brush and let it dry a little bit. And we're going to work on some of the branches again. So as I added some more of this green in here, I'm thinking, okay, I need to maybe add a few more trees in the background, just like far away trees. So I'm just gonna add a few more back here, filling in some of these bare spots. And this time, some of these trees, I'm gonna take the darker because they're in the background. So they're gonna be darker because they're hitting, these trees are hitting the shades of, or causing another one. They're shading the other trees. So just kind of adding some darker ones here and there. And then I'm gonna start adding some more darker to the tree trunks in front too. And do you see how when you start adding different colors to it, it brings it forward more or back more depending on, and it starts making it more 3D, which is what we want. We want it to look like some realistic trees, not just these flat sticks. And all you do, the way you do that is just add color here and there, because if you look at anything, any item has lots of colors in it just because of the way it's reflecting. So again, I'm going to put this darker bits in here on the left side. I'm going to put the dark on the left side. And even come up a little bit up here to some of these, because maybe the leaves are covering up some of that light. And then again, we want the light. The ones behind there aren't getting the light, so we want to go darker with the behind trees. Okay. And I'm just going to add a little bit of dark here and there on these other ones. And this is all why our trees are, or our leaves are drying a little bit. Now I'm going to go in with some of these again and add some of that lighter brown on these bottom parts. And we want to make sure that the blue is not showing through. So I'm just going back in, trying to fill in so that we can't see the blue through the trunks. And this paint, this brown paint was already a little bit more dry. It's probably an older one. And so it's drying out a little bit. So I added just a little bit of water to it so that it's a little bit more smooth. Okay. And keep going on this back and forth until you seem to feel like there is enough of what you like. Rinsing my brush again, and I'm going to go in again with some light on some of these branches because I think they got a little too, and then even down below a little bit. This one out a little bit, and then I'm going to start, now that this green has kind of dried a little, I'm just going to take and add some more green up here at the tops at places, and maybe even add some smaller branches. So I've got just a smaller brush that I'm gonna use a little bit. And if you don't have a smaller brush, just get your paintbrush as pointed as it can go, and then you'll want to water down the paint a little bit, and you'll be able to get, and then press really lightly. So here how I'm just gonna kind of add in some leaves or some branches to these leaves. Again, I'm adding some more water so that these branches can be not so thick. Okay, and then again, I'm gonna go in with a lighter, some of this cream where those branches are, and just kind of add a little bit of highlights here and there. Back and forth. Alrighty. All right. Now I'm going to take that smaller brush, again and just kind of come through some of these lower spots and add a little bit of dimension to it, not too much. Just add some more color so that they don't look flat. Okay, so now we've got our branch, or our leaves are pretty much dry. I still see some wet spots, but that's okay. And I'm gonna go back in and I'm gonna take some of that dark blue that I used, that I said it looked kind of green, and I'm gonna add some green to it. I'm gonna add a little bit more green because I want to make some of these branches or some of these leaves to look like they're darker. So you can see I just mixed some of that color. Now, if you don't want to mix, you can always, there's so many colors that have green out there, you can get a little bit. And I'm just gonna go where I'm thinking, okay, this is the bottom leaves that aren't getting as much sunlight. We're just gonna come through and maybe even some down here. These branches are in the back. And of course, these in the way back are going to be pretty dark. So I'm going to add a little bit more back here and just kind of make these in the back. And you see, as we're doing that, then it's bringing some of these trees back further. They are looking like they're more off in a distance. And the farther away they are too, the less detail they're going to have. The closer up you are to the tree, the more detail they're going to have on the leaves and on the trees and everything. Okay, so we're just going to kind of keep doing this. And then as we're getting towards the top here, oh dear, I got some pink in there, which is okay because we were going to add some blossoms to the trees. But this is the good thing about acrylics, is you can just paint over all of that very easily. In fact, again, I need a little bit more green. I keep running out on green, but I've put way too much of the other colors out. Okay, and where that pink is, it's gone now. That's the fun of acrylics. No pressure. You can always go over it. Sometimes you have to wait. If it's a lighter color, you'll have to, that you're trying to go over a darker color, you'll have to wait until the color dries. So if it was a black background and I made a mistake and I wanted to put some white over it, you'd have to wait until it would dry completely before you could cover over. And you might have to use a couple coats, but other than that, it's pretty forgiving. Okay, so I am liking this dark, and what I'm looking for is anything that doesn't look like a fuzzy leaf. I don't want it to look too symmetrical. I don't want it to look too round. I just want it to be kind of this random look. Then I'm going to go through and I'm rinsing my brush again. And now we're going to go through and we're going to take some of this cream and this yellow and we're going to mix it in to that green that we've been using. And we're going to go through, and where the light is hitting, we're going to add some of these leaves. And you see how that's making it look so much more 3D now that we're getting another layer even in. And all these places that are close up to this sun or this source of light, this could be the grove of trees. You could be painting for that Joseph Smith, when he saw Heavenly Father and Jesus, you can have this be the light. And we're just going to go ahead and keep adding more light here and there. Some places that you think, oh, the sun is really bright right here. Okay. And again, we want it pretty gradual. We don't want like all of a sudden, here's a line of light trees or light leaves, and here's a line of dark trees, because the sun will hit and will go through on some of these spots. Like even down here below, the sun is going to hit a little bit here and there. Okay. And now we're going to go even lighter. So I'm going to take some yellow and I'm going to take some white, and I'm going to go through on the top of some of these where the light is hitting really a lot and it's really shining. And now I'm just going to take even some just straight white and do some of these tips here. Again, we don't want it very smooth. We want it to look quite splotchy so that it looks like individual leaves here. And then again, if you see some spots that look kind of flat, you can just come through. I'm just going to add some yellow here. And you can even kind of mix on your canvas itself by just putting some different colors in. Okay. And you can just, you know, if you want it more of like an impressionist look, then you can stop right here. If you want it to have more detail, then you can just keep going, adding more color here and there. If you want to add some blossoms to it, you can go ahead And I'll just show you a little bit. I have a little bit of this peach color here. And you can just kind of add some flowers popping in. So fun to see all the trees coming out now, making it look so bright and colorful, all the green colors. I'm just going to add a few more yellow here and there. And maybe a little more white here and there. And again, if you wanted to add a little bit more blossoms, you can go in with a little darker pink. But I'm kind of liking mine looking just like some, maybe not a tree that would have blossoms on it, but like an aspen tree, I believe. I don't know what the names of many trees are, but just one that you would see in a grove or in a forest. Now, one of the last things that I was thinking that I wanted to do is I want to take and make that light shining down now. I want to kind of emphasize and make it so that you can actually see some of those rays coming down. Then I'm just going to add a little bit more detail to some of these trees here. And I could just keep doing this all day. It's very relaxing for me to just keep messing with them. I never feel like I'm done because I always am like, oh, there's something else that needs to be done. And I'm even going to take some of this dark brown, I'm going to mix it in with some of that dark blue and just kind of make the trees a little bit darker here and there. I got my paintbrush too wet, so I'm coming back through with some dark brown to kind of go over it. But if you take and just kind of add here and there, some darkness to some of these back trees, it's going to make the trunks look like they were in the back. And just filling in all of these places that I think need to be filled in a little bit more to make it look more like a round tree instead of just a faded line. Okay, I think I've got those a little bit more, so how I like it. So now I'm just going to go back through and put some highlights in them. And some little light hitting here and there. And then maybe even just adding a little bit of branches sticking out here. Okay. And then just add some highlights to those with that cream color. Just come through where you think that the sun is hitting. This is a very forgiving painting, so if you don't like it, you can go back through and you can even paint it all over, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend you keep just changing what you want to do, but if you feel like you don't like it, you could always just go and repaint the whole thing over again. Now I feel like I put a little bit too much of the highlight in, so I'm just going to go back in. And then I'm just going to kind of cover up some of those branches that look like they just end out of the blue and just add some more green to it. Oh, I did add some highlights over here, I forgot. Super fun one to do. Hope you enjoy it. Make sure that you send me pictures. I'd love to see them. And maybe even post some of them on our blog so other people can see what everybody else's looks like. All right, there you have it. Enjoy.